Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Racers Driving League and welcome to Season 21, Round 7, the Canadian Grand Prix from the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. I'm your host, Zach RC, as always, here to bring you through the 7th week of what has already been quite a compelling season so far, and looking forward to seeing what tonight's Grand Prix has to serve. And a Grand Prix that, truth be told, almost didn't go ahead as planned. Concerns over the Xbox servers earlier today led to a brief kerfuffle, but we are all still on and we should be in for an exciting race as PJ Canada's Audi is the first driver out on the circuit. 14 corners, of course, making up this iconic circuit here in Canada as he charges out the pit exit and leads off into out of turn 2, sorry, and down towards the chicane here at turns 3 and 4. So underway as normal, smaller grid here for us tonight, only 16 cars, including the one reserve from what I'm seeing here. That is our debutant, Dan PITR, in place for Websy tonight. Huff, the lone Red Bull in tonight's race. We're missing both Alpines. We're missing PJ's teammate, Ethan. The other Ferrari, vacant at the moment, as far as I am aware, alongside Imri. And from there, we are also missing the Cadillac of Shadow Rain, which I believe makes 5. And one more, we're missing the V-Carb of Ben. So aside from that, 16 runners and all of them looking to make their mark, of course, obviously continued on both the Drivers and the Constructors' Championships, of which Daniel Aron still leads the way. 99 points from these first 6 rounds and holds a quite a sturdy 24-point lead to Grumio, your reigning champion, in second place. But Grumio, let's not forget, has won every single race he's taken part in this season. That's 3 out of the first 6. So still, Grumio clearly not one to be trifled with on track in his first few races in this campaign as PJ starts the first flying lap of the evening. That's a short run down towards that first corner and of course immediately leads into the right-hander of turn 2. Very tight, very easy to get wrong if you get turn 1 wrong. But a bit of good exit and down towards turns 3 and 4. We saw Grumio go out this race after a few corners a couple of seasons ago, quite a while ago now. I think they're looking at sort of F1 24 back in the day, so quite a while. End of the first sector, 20.083. It's a fast first sector. The track comes at you very quickly here in Montreal, and these straight mode zones are the sort of only times you get a bit of time to breathe, and that's if someone isn't breathing down your own neck on the run down towards turn number 9 and through turn 8, sorry, up to turn 9, and then down to the hairpin at turn 10, tightest corner on the circuit. PJ navigates it quite nicely there. Back out to the left-hand side, right by that outside wall. Turn 11, that little kink of a left-hander. Straight mode back in play. And, of course, battery will be crucial here on this long run down towards the last chicane where, of course, the iconic Wall of Champions is waiting. And for those of you who want to go on the other side of the circuit, through turn 14, a nice warning for track limits could be going your way should you mess things up there. But towards the line, 1 minute 10, sorry, for PJ. 1 minute 10.961. I wanted to try and get the number right there, but we just quite missed out. But PJ in with the first time on the evening. He's going to be followed in by one of the Haas cars next. No, that's not a Haas car. That is the other Haas of Curtis, who's out on track. Curtis, of course, had a very enjoyable Grand Prix last time out in Miami, but the stewards ruled a 3rd place finish for him as he comes to complete his first lap. 1 minute 15.136. There's no way he's out of fuel, right? He hasn't set fuel so low for this first run. I guess he's just letting the Ferrari through. Letting the Ferrari of Imri through. He starts on his first flying lap. Of course, Imri's been decent qualifying so far this season. Not quite up to his usual standards in terms of the qualifying as he was last campaign, as Huff goes fastest. 1 minute 9.869 for the Red Bull driver, making waves in his first full-time season. Sits 35 points off the championship lead. And after 2 difficult Grand Prix in which he failed to score points, hasn't scored points since back in Bahrain with the 2nd place finish to Grumio. 17th in Saudi Arabia, a DNF there midway through his 2nd stint, and a 13th place finish in what was a very chaotic Miami Grand Prix last week. That win went to HB Cook, who comes back this week looking to try and go 2 on the spin if he can. I mean, mighty impressive if he can pull that off. Of course, a number of heavy hitters in last week's race. Harrison was classed in 2nd position. Of course, Harrison not with us this week, so likely may not hold on to P4 in the Drivers' Championship if Cook's got anything to say about it. 10th Cannon in P5 now. She's had a remarkable last 3 rounds. It's 3 straight 4th place finishes. I'm sure she'd love to put herself on the podium in tonight's race if she can. Both McLarens in the pit lane as Imri goes fastest, 1 minute 9.668. Grumio is on his first lap in his Mercedes, going down towards turn number 10. Currently following the V-Carb of HB Cook. 18 to 3rd place. Up front, JB in P4, TJ P5, Ericsson P6. And PJ's initial fastest time has been very quickly knocked off the top And Grimir backing off it, and it's like deleted, so had to go again. But it's giving trying to give his team a tow, but AT's completed his lap, so I'm guessing these two are going to run nose to tail and try and go again. From what I'm seeing here, both cars have got full battery and looking very racy indeed. See AT, as I say there, P3 already, but still about 7 or 8 tenths or so behind Imri. Currently in provisional pole, but only 7 cars put laps in. We've still got another 9 more to come round. And there is JB's Williams heading back to the pit lane. Both JB and Lucky in tonight's race. 8th place for Lucky last week and a 12th place finish for JB. So mixed fortunes, a mixed bag then for Williams after what I said was quite a crazy race, of course, including the red flag earlier in the Grand Prix. That sort of threw a spanner in the works for a number of drivers. Do you think to Imri and Dan, who were sort of on the strategy to go early in that first stint, and then from there just got caught out with the red flag, and from there had to struggle to get themselves back up through the field. But Dan came back for a 6th place finish, so he sits on 99 points this season, as Curtis jumps to P2, and Curtis was obviously exceptional last week in qualifying, and it looks as though he's trying to go for more of the same here. And Haas have just been, they've looked that bit better this time round. Of course, we think back to sort of midway through last season, heading towards the final third of the campaign, where these two were driving the Red Bull and looked remarkably strong and looked potentially to be dark horses to try and challenge for 3rd place in the constructors, but things stalled out by season's end. So, but these two now are looking like definitely best of the rest. Despite only being a 9-point gap to Harrison and Spittles in the Constructors' Championship for Alpine sitting in P5, Haas look a cut above that duo so far in terms of point scores. Of course, one team that's scored points in every single Grand Prix thus far with at least one driver, and scored points for both of them in half these races. So they could try and go for the sort of the bigger number, 4-3 in that ratio, with a good performance tonight. Grumio yet to put a first lap in, so I guess he sacrificed his first run for AT. Lucky's out on circuit here. He's putting his first flying lap in, as that Williams heads up towards turn number 6. And of course, Williams, this is the 2nd week with their official car in the 2026 DLC. And again, looks striking as always from the growth-based outfit, as Lucky rounds turn 9. 10th Cannon's P4 there. Good lap from the McLaren driver, and her teammate Dan is coming in behind. Championship leader off on his first lap. This is one of those races where Grumio is in the field. And Dan obviously has finished on the podium every single time Grumio has. Of course, Dan's 100% podium record died down after last week's race, but looking to redeem himself and try and score his 2nd win of the season. It's been sheer consistency from Dan so far. It's kept him where he is. 5 podiums in the first 6 rounds. One of them, of course, the P1 back in China, though, of course, I imagine that might feel like a lifetime ago to the McLaren. The man in the McLaren, rather. And looking at a race which Grumio is the defending winner. Of course, took a large number of victories last season and sort of ran away with the title. But Dan looks poised to try and challenge him for that championship this season, and doing a mighty fine job so far. And 10th Cannon could be in play here for a potential tow for both McLarens down towards turn 13. See Dan moving into line, and 10th will likely peel off into the pit lane here, or move to the right to allow Dan through. There she goes to the right, and Dan's got to nail this last 2 corners, which he does. Keeps it in the white lines, and now charging towards the lines to complete his lap. It's going to be a 1 minute 9.675, 7 thousandths off of Imri. But these two have looked to class the field in terms of most qualifying sessions this season. Grumio has also been up there with them, but it's not been here for every Grand Prix. You see sort of the sort of pink, purple and black helmet in the Mercedes, giving sort of very 2020 Lewis Hamilton sort of vibes. And those of you who are here for F1 in 2020 will know that's not a sight you want to see in your mirrors at any stage in the Grand Prix, especially with this year's Mercedes looking and performing as well as it has done. But McLaren, obviously, through sheer consistency from both drivers, still lead the way in the Constructors. 32 points currently for the Papaya Warriors above the Silver Arrows in 2nd place. The 2 Red Bulls have fallen back to 3rd after leading for a round or 2 early on. 135 points for McLaren, 103 for Mercedes, and only 80 points for Red Bull. But still a mighty fine tally. Of course, every team has scored points this season, and we are only 7 points away for Aston Martin for every team to receive double digits this campaign. Ericsson and Alvar, of course, both drivers in the field tonight with a smaller grid, have a good chance to try and close that gap if things go their way tonight, which you never know. And I wouldn't doubt either one of them in a situation like that. This could be a crazy race. We've definitely seen some mental ones here in the past. Yellow flags up at turn 7. All clear, though. Huff goes faster now. So the Red Bull finding a bit of time in on his second run. Imrie also out on circuit. He was at one point, he was a tenth and a quarter up in the first sector. He's only a quarter of a tenth up now in his second sector. So he's lost some time in sector 2, but he's got plenty of battery for a run down towards turn 13. But it's up to him now to ensure that he nails this. And down towards the last chicane, of course. Such a great qualifier as Imrie over one lap. As he rounds turn 13 here, we'll see what he puts in. Keeps it in the lines. Bit wide on corner exit, a slap tap to the outside wall, but finding improvements, I think. And Imrie does go faster by about almost a tenth and a half to Huff now in second place. Dan still in the pit lane as Curtis comes towards the line. He's currently P4, and he'll jump down for P3 there. Big gain, about a quarter of a second. Sorry, about an eighth of a second rather gained between for Curtis there. Allows to jump onto the inside lane of the third row. There's your reserve, Dan PITR. And in that other Red Bull, of course, can't score points. That's the reserve rule in the RDL. It's sheer pride on the line, of course, and a sort of message to the rest of the pack saying, I'm here, and if there comes a seat, then I could be in prime position to try and take it. We'll see how Dan performs here in the race. We'll see how both Dans get on. And I'll see how I get on in terms of differentiating the two, should they come into blows on track. Grumio again on the racetrack, down towards turn number 8, and looking for a strong run this time. But I think, again, backing off, his lap's been deleted. Track limit's not kind so far to the reigning champion. But he's still got 6 minutes. There's plenty of time to get a lap on the board. And those of you who have been here before will know Grumio. He can pull a lap out almost whenever he pleases, really. But track limit's often his enemy, and especially at a circuit like this. I always bring up back in Season 12 when Grumio is chasing his former rival Landlord for the Drivers' Championship. Grumio in the Alfa Romeo, Landlord in the Alfa Tauri, and Grumio was on course to seal victory to try and close a big deficit on Landlord by about 10 points or so in what was already quite a tight fight, only to get hit with a 3-second penalty at the very last corner through turn 14 for track limits. So Grumio knows all too well the pain here of what implications could mean with a late penalty at this circuit. And of course, he was one of the drivers who was caught out in the crazier finish back in Season 16. It was the first victory for former Red Bull driver Grovey that day, when the rain came late on with about 5 laps to go and changed everything. And a number of drivers caught out running dry tyres in those wet conditions. And it's those races that are sort of most entertaining when the weather shifts just that late on in the Grand Prix. But enough reminiscing for now. We've got plenty to focus on in the present, in the here and now. And speaking of present, Grumio going fastest here with a 19 point, I think that's a 19.4 I saw in the first sector. And AT right behind him. So AT looking for a toe off of his teammate. And I've always said these two, perhaps the best in terms of making the toe during qualifying, the best teammate pairing in the field here. And I'd say closely challenged by Dan in 10th, but if you ask me, these two edge it out, as Grumio leading AT through turn 11, and he'll get the toe here down towards turn 13. But I think Grumio's far enough in front to not have to go out the way. Into the last two corners here. This is a good lap from Grumio. He's starting to delete it again. I think he's just missed out there at the last second. And that was 1 minute 9.0. That's enough. That would have been enough for pole by about a good 4 tenths. And that's going to be frustrating for Grumio as turn 13 and 14. As I'm saying, that might have been commentator's curse, but it's come back to bite him once again, this time during qualifying all that time later, almost 10 seasons to go. And would you believe it? Yellow flag down at the exit of turn 2 towards 3. I think that's one of the Williams cars going slow. That's lucky. That is JB in through turn 3 and 4. Currently in P10s. The Williams cars on the outskirts of the top 10. One of them on the edge and the other one looking in. Of course, no threat of elimination from these guys. Imrie starts his flying lap there, but going remarkably slow. So I think we need to back off and go again. He's got 3 minutes to get around, so should get him within plenty of time as Grumio. Well, I think we'll see him head towards the pit lane, or is he going to try and go for it on this lap? He's had to delete it again here. Things are not working out nicely for him. I'm guessing he's boxing this lap. In he comes, and we'll see a set of soft tyres coming on for both Mercedes cars. Fresh sets, and we'll likely see them run those on the final runs in less than a minute's time, I should think. getting to that stage now. We'll start to see cars out of the pit lane. Of course, majority of cars actually out on track here. And we'll see how many didn't pit this time to change onto another set of soft tyres, or how many drivers on their last laps. But it's still Imrie on pole, provisionally. There's your gap, 0.142 from Imrie to Huff. It's another 10th back to Curtis. And Dan about a quarter of a second behind in that McLaren. ATP 5, TJP 6, Cook 10th Cannon, Dan PITR, and JB your top 10, followed by Alvar, PJ, Lucky, and Ericsson. And shockingly, Grumio and, or that's not so shocking, Cottonley yet to get a lap in. Of course, Cottonley obviously often waits till quite late in the session for the one run in his Cadillac. The onus to score points is on him tonight. That team currently sitting 9th place in the Constructors' Championship on 27 points. Those points all coming courtesy so far of Shadow Rain, who's not with us tonight. And we'll see what Cottonley's got up his sleeve here. As he starts, will likely be his only lap. Oh, no, sorry, no, he's just finished that, apologies. 111.661. Sorry, I could have sworn he was on that lap, that's on me. But almost everyone out on circuit now. There goes AT. Where is Grumio? Grumio's at the pit exit, so he's got time to get a lap in. He'll make it to the line with about 15, 20 seconds to spare here. If not a bit more than that, I'll say 25. Imrie's had his lap deleted and is again going round to start himself fresh. But he's only going to get one more shot at this, realistically. They cross over the 1 minute 10 here left in the session. So if you're not currently on that lap, then you've missed out. But everyone is out on circuit here. And I mean everyone. All 16 of our runners. HB Cook coming through to start what will be his final lap. And needs to make a good one. Currently sits in P7. And while the heights of last week's victory are unlikely to be repeated, you never say never. And HB Cook has been a mixed bag from this season. Hadn't finished any higher than 6th until last week's win. He's finished 6th twice this season, but one in Australia and one in Japan. And has finished in the points in all but one race, that being China, where he's finished P11. So Cook, remarkably consistent and good enough right now for P5 in the World Championship. But he's had his lap deleted again. So his run in qualifying is over with. PJ retires the car in the pit lane. I think he's had enough. Not going around for another one. We're nearing those last few seconds here where drivers need to start getting their laps in. 10 seconds. And the Aston Martin of Ericsson will be the last car to the line to begin that lap. Will he make it in time? He will make it in time with 3 seconds to spare. Who is first round? Checker flag is up. Lucky will be followed by one of the Haas cars. That's going to be Curtis, who's currently sitting in 3rd place. And the McLaren of Dan behind, but Dan's had his lap deleted, so P4 for best for Dan. So first the line then is Lucky. It's a 1 minute 10. Not enough to make any gains, so Lucky stays in P10 for the minute. Curtis across the line, stays in 3rd place. Is it enough to hold? Can he hold on to it? Dan PITR into 6th place there. Good stuff from the reserve. Good showing. Next car to the line is 10th Cannon. 10th finds the pit lane. Where is Huff? Huff into the pits as well. Had his lap deleted. Imrie, same thing. Up to the line. Where is Grumio? Grumio slid off. And track limits again has called Grumio out. So unbelievably, the champion will start last here. But he's going to stick in it and try and get AT a bit of a tow. You see TJ into P5. Again, fantastic qualifying for Haas here, even if they lose that one space to this Mercedes. Into the last few corners. AT really ripping it there through turns 13 and 14. And towards the line. Can he improve? He doesn't improve. He improves, but not enough by place. P6 for him. But it's Imrie on pole then for the Grand Prix. As Grumio finds the line. Dead last then for the reigning champion and defending win around here. And Grumio has stopped the car there. Quite confusing as to what he's actually trying to do. But the checker flag is up. He's got across the line to cap off qualifying. And there it is. Imrie on pole. And Grumio will be ruining those track limits at a circuit that sort of hands them out like sweets, really. Imrie on pole. He will lead the charge to turn 1. Huff in 2nd place. Curtis in 3rd, exactly 1/10 behind the 2nd place route driver. It's down by a few hundredths in 4th place. TJ P5, P3 P5 again for the Haas team. Fantastic stuff for them. AT P6, Dan PITR 7th on reserve debut. HB Cook P8, 10th Cannon 9th, and Lucky Lambert round to your top 10. That is your top 10 going into this Canadian Grand Prix, and we'll join you back here in just a moment. back, and time to get the Canadian Grand Prix underway. Round 7 of Season 21 in the Racers Driving League. A 16-car grid should hopefully make some exciting action with Imrie on your front row in pole position and Huff to his right for the charge to the first corner. It should be an absolutely cracking Grand Prix, as it always is here in Montreal. Have a look at your circuit in the graphic then, as always designed by our very own JB Racer 1 to replicate the style of the 2000s. And looking at, yes, marvellous circuit. What more can you say about it, really? 14 corners, 4 straight mode zones across the circuit. The main straight down to between turns 7 and 8. And sorry, there's only 3, apologies. And the run down to turn 13. Of course, the Wall of Champions waiting for us here at the final chicane. And it's already caught out a number of drivers so far in terms of track limits on the opposite side. And hopefully we don't see anyone go careering off into the outside wall and out of the Grand Prix completely. But still, a very exciting Grand Prix in prospect. 35 laps. Grumio, your defending winner, starts from dead last there. Perhaps the biggest talking point out of qualifying. Failed to get a lap in, and we'll see. But he did set a 1 minute 9.0 in an invalidated lap time. So plenty of pace still here with the reigning champion and defending Canadian Grand Prix winner as the field takes off on their formation lap. Have a look at the starting grid here. It's Imrie on pole position, looking for win number 2 of the campaign. His last one coming back in Japan. And 10th place in the championship, only 27 points this season, and looking for some big gains. Huff starts from P2, 35 points off the lead in the championship, trying to chase down both Dan and Grumio. Could do a massive dent to it with the Winter looking for his first WR victory. Curtis in 3rd place, same boat, but coming off the back of a fantastic Grand Prix in Miami, a first podium of the season, and looking to go 2 steps better with the win. Daniel, championship leader, starts from 4th place, and again looking to expand that lead. It's 24 points over Grumio. If things stay as they are, Grumio fails to score, that lead will expand to 36 if Dan stays in 4th place. TJP5, another great qualifying for the 2 Haas cars, starting in the top 5 once more. AT in P6, actually the highest starting Mercedes driver, and the only one to put a lap in during this qualifying session. Dan PITR reserving him for Websy tonight. He is running that Red Bull and starting from P7 for his first ever RDL start. Good luck to him. HP Cook starts from P8, of course, last week's winner in Miami, and looking for more of the same as he pushes another Grand Prix victory, if not a podium finish for VCarb. 10th Cannon starts P9, 3 straight P4 finishes for her. She's got to gain 5 places to do it again. Lucky Lambert leads the line for Williams today. He starts from P10, the last place in the top 10 in the grid. Ericsson P11, the Aston Martins could be home for a bit of chaos today to try and push themselves into the top 10, score some points. JB in P12, again, solid Grand Prix in Miami, but a P12 finish and looking for a bit more today as we're starting. Alvar P13, again, same sort of thing as Ericsson, looking for more. And a different strategy to his teammate. Medium tyres for him and hards for Ericsson. PJP14, the lone Audi in tonight's race. Same thing for Courtney Goblin, lone Cadillac. Those two starting P14 and P15. Again, looking to try and push their teams up the table. And Grumio, your reigning champion, starts from dead last. 4 hard tyre starters here. Courtney, Ericsson, Lucky, and Dan PITR. You see Imrie really looking at the start, trying to get himself in front of Huff in the race of the first corner. And we're about to find out exactly how good that start will be. Waiting here on the lights to get this one underway. Here they come, the Canadian Grand Prix, round number 7 of the championship here in Season 21. The lights are on. Long hold, but it's underway here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Lights out, foot to the floor. Good start from Huff on the right-hand side. They're almost going through right towards the first corner. I thought for a second. Imrie on the inside gets the better drive off into the first turn and leads away from Huff. Curtis and Dan side by side, going in through turn 2 for the first time. 80 in front of TJ, about half a car. He'll try and clear him going up towards turn 3. HP Cook into P7. Lucky up a few places there. Great start for him. And 10th Cannon in P9 and Dan PITR, your top 10. Grumio up 3 spots already into P13. Great start there to manage to dispatch the Aston Martin, Audi, and Cadillac as 10th passes Lucky now for 8th place. But Imrie, dream start there, and I thought for a second I might have seen contact between Imrie and Huff off the line, but not a bit of it here. Imrie leads the first sort of 2/3 or so this lap as Grumio finds another pass, but there's a swivel wobble there for Imrie and finds the grass. There goes Huff to the outside now, going in towards turn number 10, side by side towards the hairpin. Who's going to break first? Imrie's got the better line on the inside, but if Huff can outbrake him, you have an outside chance. Not a bit of it. Imrie stays in control, and Curtis goes side by side now with Huff for 2nd place as Grumio finds another spot. He's up 5 places on this first lap. A bit less work from this week, but still 15 places is a lot to gain in the Grand Prix, but he's got to fire them out of the way quite quickly as Curtis trying to challenge Huff towards turn 13, but Imrie with a narrow lead as he end the first lap. A few cars find the outside wall, just light taps there, and Imrie breaking the toe as Curtis may try and challenge Huff towards turn 1. There he goes to the inside, but Dan might try and sneak in 2. Huff's got the inside, he's got the better line, going in for the right-hander. Curtis has got no choice but to back away, and Dan takes full advantage on corner exit. Going to try and make the pass here into turn 3, he does. There goes your championship leader then into P3 for the first time today. Huff still chasing Imre. It's a 4/10 lead, almost half a second for that Ferrari. Of course, Ferrari's had a rough season so far. P8 for them in the championship. Only 37 points all season for the Prancing Horses. And Imre could take a big chunk and add to their tally with a win today. But it's still got a long way to go here. Still 33 laps to go once they cross the line to complete lap 2. Grumio's charge is still slightly here as they run into turns 8 and 9. But he's got overtaking play to try and chase down Dan PITR in the Red Bull. And you see in front of him, his teammates got ideas trying to go for Curtis on the inside of that house going through turn 10. Better exit from Curtis and keeps the car in front. But does AT have a second word in mind down towards turn 13? Nothing for the time being. And Huff trying to close on Imre. But I think super clipping there with the boost mode. And going in. Oh, yellow flag in behind. Oh, his car going slow. Damage done to Dan PITR already. And a front wing lost completely off that Red Bull. Not quite sure what's happened to him. He has to find the pit lane here, but a disappointing start to his RDL debut as a reserve. And finds the pit lane. Disappointing break here early on. Ramirez made the pass. Damage done to his Mercedes too, so I'm guessing there was some sort of altercation there. Not entirely sure as to what. We'll leave that to them, or we'll leave that to the stewards, but that could put a spanner in the works here for Grumio's early charge up the field. And as it stands right now, once he passes Lucky, it's 1.4 second gap, 1.3 seconds to 10th in 8th place. The top 8 breaking away a bit here as Huff tries the right-hand side. Nimri going up towards turn 8, and Huff takes the lead for the first time today. Of course, Huff gunning for his first RDL Grand Prix victory. He's come second 3 times already this season. That was his last point-scoring finish back in Bahrain. And Huff looking to try and take advantage of having less drivers in the field. But the front runners alongside him are all still right there. Safe for Grumio down in P10 right now. But I should think we'll see him charging up sooner rather than later. Dan PITR back on circuit on a fresh set of medium tyres and a fresh front wing too. We'll see if he can get a chance to come back into the race later on. There goes down to the inside towards turn 13, making a move on Imre. Close to contact. There was contact between the pair of them. And Imre, 3-second penalty for corner cutting. And comes back in front of Dan. Dan makes his move to the left and gets through. And these two going at it. Very hard. Oh, contact between the both of them. And Dan slides off at turn 1. Damage done to Dan's McLaren, the championship leader, in trouble already here. Yellow flag down at turn 2. Huff gets away nice and clean. He's got a 4-second advantage here. And I think Imre perhaps wasn't too pleased with the altercation down at turn 13. And that's going to cost Dan massively. Huge implications for the championship leader as he now finds himself under pressure, perhaps from Grumio. But both cars, your top 2 from last season in the Drivers' Championship and top 2 this season, now with damage this early on. And we'll see how Dan can recover himself, if at all here. That damage looked quite nasty. It looked like, truth be told, it looked like a nastier shunt than the damage warranted, as Grumio giving Dan a light tap, as there goes Lucky trying to take advantage. 2 champions harassing Dan down towards turn number 10. Grumio to the right-hand side now. And whether Dan will be driving with a chip on his shoulder now, who knows? We typically see a lot of composure out of Dan, and Imre, I think, wasn't too happy with what happened down at turn 13. Dan made a corner, of course, was there quite late, but a full right to the corner from what we saw. But Imre, I believe, was still the car in front going into the apex. So, again, we'll leave that to the stewards as Dan and Grumio go side by side now. Dan into the pit lane. And disappointing as both Dans now find themselves down the field. And a wing change in order for your championship leader as Grumio now finds P8. But, of course, it'd take the win and a no score for Dan in order for Grumio to take the championship lead. As Grumio slides there, leaving turn 2. He's still got Lucky and JB on his tail. Both Williams cars now find themselves in the points, which are quite grateful for the instance up front. Imre's still going, but he's got a 3-second penalty for corner cutting there to sort of take evasive action when Dan made his move. But again, whether how the stewards will view it, I don't know. It's down to them. It's Dan PITR sets fastest lap. Good start to the Grand Prix in that sense. But now finds himself 5 seconds behind Dan. He himself is 16 seconds behind Cottony Goblin and P14. But Huff leads the train here. And Curtis all of a sudden finds himself in what could be quite a nice position, because it appears Imre's in a real mood to race there. And Huff is not pulling away in any case at the moment. So Curtis, with a good shrewd drive like he did last week, could be able to try and take win number 1 of his career. As Imre tries to go for a late move for a split second, but thinks better of it, keeps himself in line. And waiting for corner exit, uses overtake down towards turn 1. We're on to lap 6 of the Grand Prix. It's been a very entertaining 5 laps thus far, and a very chaotic 5 laps in addition. AT and P4, again, scoring 12 points for Mercedes as they run. 10th, and now the lone point scorer for the Papaya team as it stands right now. And that's only 6 points going that team's way. But with I mean, AT scoring 12 points and Grumio scoring 4. It's only 16, so not enough. It will slash McLaren's lead in the Constructors in half as things stand right now. And we'll see if that changes. We'll see if 10th can try and push their way forward, try and challenge TJ in the Haas as JB makes his pass on his teammate Lucky. Those two fighting over P9 on the tarmac right now as PJ sits in behind. The two Aston Martins waiting for a chance to try and get involved. And the Aston Martin prospects here looking a lot better than the Aston Martin in real life has in the capacity that over the course of this 2026 season, even with the upgrade saved to them in Hungary just this weekend gone. Courtney Goblin 6 seconds back in P14, 6 seconds behind Ericsson to be exact, and Dan running in P15, and the visual glitch there of having no nose cone on the car whatsoever. But fortunately, again, as I said last week with this year's game, as the front wing now has to open for active aero, it means we still get a nice little look at the front at least. So at least there's an image of some element of the car being on there for that weird glitch. Hopefully EA fixed that for F1 27, or just sooner rather than later. Imri goes to the inside now, looking for the race lead back off of Huff, and gets it too. And Imri with a quite an audacious late move there that gets back in front. Curtis running in that third spot still. I'm sure he'd like to try and get a bit more involved with the battle in front if he can, but he's got 80 in his mirrors. HB Cook's about to go into P5 now as Courtney Goblin gets his first penalty of the evening. Same for JB. Multiple warnings of both drivers here. Just trying to catch my breath after what's been a very exciting first 6 laps. 6.5 laps complete here in this Canadian Grand Prix. There's your position change. Top 3 are as they were. See Daniel Aaron now down 11 spots, Dan PITR down 9, TJ down 2, Ericsson down 2. Biggest gainer has been Grumio, who's now cut through half the field, but still finds himself back 3.4 seconds back from TJ. So imagine JB has been keeping him honest, and that the battle with Dan may have cost him some time as well. Not too sure. Before Dan came into the pit lane, of course. So 7 laps down then, and the top 5 breaking away a little bit here. 10th Cannon running in P6. She's now dispatched TJ in the Haas. Just in terms of tyres, top 9 all running on medium tyres as Grumio finds the pit lane for the first time today, and he'll join the two Dans in the tail end of the field. And a wing change in play as well then for Grumio. So not a great start to the Grand Prix. These three are going to need a safety car or something to get themselves really back into contention here. Unless any of them have some sort of brain up their sleeve in terms of strategy. That leaves us then with a number of drivers who could be looking for their first wins, save for Imri gunning for his second. I say first this season. Obviously, AT has taken a victory before. Cook won just last week. Curtis and Huff are the two who've got the eye out for in terms of potential first winners today. Oh, and Imri's disconnected there. That could be crucial. And Huff makes the pass now. Cordy to like to the outside. And Curtis around the outside too. Maybe open the door. Oh, slide there. And contact with AT. And I was fearing for a second we see one car go round, but nothing of the sort. Everyone keeps themselves as they are. But Imri disconnected for the time being. That could be costly for him as Huff now leads the way once again. Curtis making the pass on Imri, nice and easy. We'll see if AT follows him through next time round. But Curtis into the pit lane now. So I'm guessing the medium tyres then reaching their limit as Imri rejoins, but Huff now a second and a half in front and doing quite nicely as AT makes the pass. Cook now into P4, Imri down to 3rd. And Cook slides up the racetrack a little bit there. That was quite concerning. So things continue then as they go. And it's Imri now being challenged by Cook in the race for what is now the 3rd spot. Cook wins out on this occasion and takes that place away from Imri. And 10th Cannon right behind, trying to get herself involved as she can as well. Things looking very, very tasty here as the pit window seems to be opening up. Obviously, PJ has also come into the pit lane here. He now finds himself amongst this little train with Dan. Dan, PJ, Grumio, and Dan PRTR all together on circuit. Huff now that 10th lead over AT. Cook in 3rd place, Imri in 4th, and 10th Cannon in P5. But in comes AT and Huff, both cars find the pit lane, which means this is the second time in 2 weeks HB Cook shows the way outright, but of course yet to make his first stop, and Imri following those guys in as well. Clean stops for the top 2 teams in the race right now. And Imri following them. It's really Red Bull versus sort of been Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, sorry, going at it. And the McLaren of 10th is still a bit further back. we've seen in the past this season, we've seen, oh, it's Grimace as fast as that there. We've seen in the past for McLaren how things can turn quite nicely for those guys. Of course, Dan went down the field quite early on in the Grand Prix in Australia, the very first race of the season, and obviously there was a number of safety cars working for him, but he came back to finish in the second position. And he is two in front of Grumio here, so he can get himself in the points. Grumio is currently boxed in, but will find a way around the outside of Courtney Goblin's Cadillac. And may now try and challenge PJ in the Audi position. Grumio to the inside, and PJ practically lets him go as if he stands still there. Move Grumio up into P13 then, and about a second or so behind Dan. Imri only a few seconds in front of those guys, so things have worked out quite evenly here, all things considered. PJ into the pit lane, both Cook and 10th staying out. Lucky also out on circuit. JB goes into the pit lane. First stop for Williams today. Both Aston Martins out on track too. Of course, Ericsson on the hard tyre, so he can afford to go a bit longer into this race. Of course, Huff and AT are still your sort of net leaders right now. And they said that Kurt's actually in front of them, sorry. So Kurt's, I think, maybe jumping ahead of both of them here. Apologies for completely missing that, but Curtis now looks to be in a net P1. Alvar, Ericsson, Lucky, 10th and Cook all yet to stop. There's a look at it. PJ Caleb, multiple warnings, 3 seconds there, and that's his second of the evening. He joins Courtney Goblin in that club. Only JB and Imri only with 3, but Imri, of course, with 3 seconds for corner cutting in one instance as opposed to having multiple. But still, that may cost Imri dearly if he gets a second. And things not working out this season for Ferrari in particular. Marked down as one of the strongest pairings in the field, Imri and Pope at the start of the campaign, so it's gutting to see the sort of position they are in now. And I know that Imri will be looking towards next week, the Monaco Grand Prix, as a place to finally get a few demons off his back, as well as trying to sort of kickstart Ferrari's campaign properly. 72 points off the World Championship lead right now. Things aren't looking too good for the prancing horses. No one in that top 5 pitted last time round. Kurt's only 2 seconds back from the Aston Martin of Alvar, and half of the right behind him with overtake in play. Curtis with standard boost as Dan PITR gets his first penalty of the evening. About 9 seconds back from JB now, so still trying to close that gap, still working hard to try and close in. He's brought it down without doubt. It was 16 seconds when he came into the pits. Now down to 9.5, so still pace on show then from Dan. Grumio is now dispatched Daniel Aaron and up into P11. He's got TJ right in front of him. And Grumio getting overtake. Yellow flag, and I think that's down around. He's recovered the car. He may have had an off there at turn 7 on corner exit. No damage done to the Red Bull, so he's good to carry him where he is. Huff around the outside of Curtis here, so Huff retakes his net first place, but can Curtis come back at him? No battery for Curtis for the time being. Both cars running fairly low. AT behind him's got about half charge. Going to turn 1, of course, that'll only get bigger as he goes into the first couple of corners. Imri here, chasing these guys down. He's about 2 seconds back, plus with that 3-second penalty. Things looking mighty difficult for him right now. For Huff, I'd say it's as good a time as any to try and take his first win of the season, his first win of his RDL career. Curtis, same thing. He's looking to try and make a challenge here. Goes to the outside. They managed to dispatch both one of the Aston Martins of Alvar. And they might try and look again here. There he goes to the left-hand side, close to contact between the pair of them. Huff locks up, gives Curtis the chance on the outside, but the Aston Martin's waiting from there on corner exit. And Ericsson in Curtis's way. Hasn't got to give blue flags as 10th takes the lead. 10th kind of leading for the first time this season. If not for the first time in her career. Huff maintains things, gets away from the Aston Martin, but that's allowed AT to close right back in. And Imri may try and close that gap too if he can get around Alvar sooner rather than later. But Curtis and AT now very much in play in the battle for what will be the top spot when Lucky, HB Cook and 10th Cannon all come into the pits. They've got to do it at some point. Watch, look at Curtis in particular. 332 starts. That's 5 more than Grumio's made in his career. 332. He's come second place. He's come second 3 times. Looking for that bit more. And trying to add another winner this season. We've seen 4 winners in the first 6 rounds. Half penalty. And that might open things up for Curtis. And now opening things up for AT as well. Both cars looking for their first wins of the season. And in Curtis' case, again, first win of his career. That's these two running 7th and 9th right now in the championship. And both HB Cook and 10th Canada into the pit lane. Lucky's going to stay out a bit longer because he's on those hard tyres, so he can go longer. But Curtis has a big chance now. Huff is going to need to try and establish himself an advantage, and sooner rather than later, of course. We're not even halfway through yet. We've still got a long way to go. As we now see Imrie back into P5 and Grumio into P7, TJ, then Dan. And PJ Callaghan into the top 10 now as 10th and Cook emerge back on circuit. JB jumping both cars. Potentially both. I think 10th Callaghan gets back in front. Yes, she does. And it appears I spoke too soon as JB emerges behind, just behind HB Cook. PJ Callaghan, another penalty here. Things looking good for him. 9 seconds. Again, he joins Courtney Goblin in that regard. Those two not doing nicely and not getting on the right side of the stewards in that sense. As Dan PRTR in for his second stop of the race. And it closed the gap down on Courtney Goblin big time. Half second in front of Lucky as Curtis makes the pass. So the top 2 have now dispatched any traffic from the pit window. And now find themselves bearing down on each other on the battle for the race lead. As AT chose to make a move. I think caught Lucky unaware slightly there as they're going through turn 12. And Lucky falling away here. Less grip on those hard tyres compared to AT's mediums. And Lucky stays out again. Can Imrie get rid of him quickly? He can. Makes the pass on the left. So Imrie getting back in the fight here. But obviously, like Huff, has got that 3-second penalty to worry about. So I think this race comes largely down to Curtis or AT right now. But there's still plenty of time left. And Grumio's back in contention too, let's not forget. And Dan not far behind either. These 3 sort of with natural pace are just closing the gap. And then they've been helped obviously by the lead trios dispatching of the pit stop traffic, as we'll refer to them. But everyone minus Lucky has made their first stop. There it is. And Imrie, a second penalty there. That won't help his case. And with Grumio, TJ, and Dan bearing down on him, that could be trouble. That could put him down the order again. And as it stands right now, with half of that 3-second penalty and only a 9/10 lead, Curtis is in command of this race. Huff needs to get to building an advantage and building it soon, as we're near the halfway stage here in Canada. With his tyres, it's a bit fresher than the car behind in the Haas. AT being closed on by Imrie, who's got overtake, same as AT in front. But only boost for Lucky, only boost for Grumio, but overtake for TJ and Dan. PJ was in no man's land. He's now got 10th Cook and JB all trying to close down on him. Ericsson some 4.5 seconds back. Alvar in P14, Courtney Goblin P15, and Dan PRTR still 16th. Again, a difficult break from just 2 laps into this thing to have the complication that he had earlier on. Obviously unsure as to what happened to that Red Bull. But the other one's in front right now. Half looking good. But again, needs to build that advantage or hope that Curtis gets his own penalty. As Imrie now gets around AT. AT doesn't need to fight Imrie too much because keep himself within 6 seconds. That's the place back. Grumio passing Lucky at last now. And TJ's going to try and follow him through sooner rather than later. There he goes to the left-hand side. Yellow flag in front of them, sorry. Oh, and that's Lucky. It's gone? No, is it Lucky? No, no, apologies. That's Dan backing off. Right, sorry. I'll tell you, the F1 game really needs to sort of mark what is a blue flag out of the way on the minimap and what is the yellow flag. But Dan lets the field through. Unfortunately, a lap down now. And crushing stuff for a first Grand Prix. Half 1.3 is the good now, and Grumio with a penalty. He got plenty of warnings during qualifying, having his laps deleted, and now that'll help things a bit more in terms of breathing space for the cars in front. Curtis is looking in particular at the halfway stage like he could win this race. Huff, though, is still in control and working at trying to expand his lead. Grumio 2 seconds behind his teammate. Whether he'll assist Grumio in trying to get around Imrie as well remains to be seen. Curtis 1.8 behind now. Huff is opening that advantage up, which is what he needs right now. And I think we are truthfully staring down the barrel of a first-time winner, be it Huff or be it Curtis. Remove that penalty. I mean, he's still a fair bit back. He's about 7.5 seconds behind. And from there, he's still got to then take the lead and build a 3-second advantage to P2. So I'm not thinking this is a win for Grumio today. And that'll mean his 100% record for his Grand Prix he's started will not continue. But he will, or maybe potentially gain a few points on Dan if he can get himself away from the McLaren. But Dan looking to expand that lead to 26 points as they run. Unless Lucky or Cook or PJ or 10th or JB get involved. That train is still looking at taking a point or two off the championship lead and then get themselves close enough. But it's looking like only Lucky right now. 2.1, the gap from Huff to Curtis. Imrie 1.1 behind. AT equally a second back. TJ now around Grumio. HB Cook passing Lucky Lambert for the back. Cook now leads the train, last week's Grand Prix winner in Miami. Will Lucky try and get back at him? Stays in line for now. Both cars same amount of batteries. Lucky finds the pit lane. And finally his stint comes to him, but just the one stop in play here, I think, for Lucky. I think everyone else looking at a 2. As Grumio finds the pits, he's in for a second stop. Hard tyres are on. He's away. And Dan follows him. Fresh set of hards on. So these guys set to go to the end. .5. The gap gets larger and larger and larger. And you think back a few weeks ago here, back to Bahrain, when Huff came within a 10th or 2 of winning his first Grand Prix. Had Grumio been a bit slow with his own 3-second penalty. Of course, we've seen Grumio pull the gap out before. I think from here, it's going to be a difficult ask. I can't see him winning this race with 15 laps to go, but things could still change remarkably in the closing stages. We are about sort of 65% or so the way through this Grand Prix. Is Curtis now pitting for what we're guessing will be the final time in this race. AT will join him. TJ stays on track. Anyone else into the pit lane? 10th cannon penalty. Majority of cars now in this field have them. Curtis is away. Nice and easy. Hard tyres on. Where is Grumio? Grumio emerging from the last corner now. And damn, penalty. That won't help him either. That's his first of the evening. He's got to try and catch Grumio naturally now. Or hope Grumio gets the second one. But Curtis out in front and AT out in front of Grumio. But will he let his teammate through? It's about 3.5 seconds between Curtis and Grumio. Making that about 3.8. Both cars with penalties too. So that even things up. I just noticed Curtis has got a penalty of his own. And that's the good sign for Huff, because it means that unless he gets a second one, it's looking as though the race could still go his way. But he's yet to stop as well. All become clear in a matter of laps here when we do get the pit cycle complete and everyone on their tyres to the end of the Grand Prix. But Huff's going to go as long as he can. I think same as Imrie. So scrap that. In comes Imrie into the pit lane. His second and guessing final stop incoming. Another set of hard tyres. Looks to be the call here for Ferrari. There he is, nice and clean. He's away. And we'll see where he rejoins here. Could be outside of the points, I'm thinking. Depends on his exit. Where are the two Mercedes cars? There they are. And Imrie gets out just in front of them. Narrowly. Curtis still about 3 seconds in front of those guys right now. Maybe 2.5. But Grumio's got to navigate some traffic to reach the Haas. And Huff by himself now. PJ, another penalty for him. It's been a difficult night. 15 seconds for that Audi. Tough to see. Huff will need to pit again, but as it stands right now, he's 13 laps from his first RDL victory. And he comes. His second and final stop. TJ will be in control, but yet to stop himself. But no penalty for him or for HP Cook. Huff is away. Curtis is the last corner now. Gonna be quite tight here. I think Curtis may actually edge it. Gonna be close. Where's Curtis? There he is. Grumio fastest lap. He's got pace with him. And Huff gets out in front narrowly. We're going to be in for quite a late scrap to settle this thing. AT could be the driver in control as it stands right now, looking at it. He's the only car on this train who's not got a penalty. Huff, Curtis, Imrie, Grumio all have them. So does Dan. But if AT gets one of his own, then all of a sudden it's game on for everyone. The top 4 all yet to pit in front of them for the last time. 12, 8, 8, 12 with your total laps run on each set of hard tyres for the top 4. Huff's only 2.5 seconds back right now from JB. The gap from P1 to P5 is 6.8 seconds. And that's going to be a gap that will be easily eradicated in the pit lane. As everyone sits almost all together now. Save for Courtney Goblin, who's by himself there in turn 7. Dan passing AT himself. Grimmer passing Imrie. See if Imrie comes back at him. But no one pitted. You got Dan PITR slowing up. Imrie to the outside. Trying to find a way around Grumio. And a third penalty there for Imrie. And I think that marks his chances of winning, of any sort of result today gone completely, I should think. Have to see. Huff is on the tail of JB in the Williams. TJ leads. I can't see him running these set of tyres to the end. I can't see Cookrot or 10th running his or hers. JB, same thing. And there goes Huff, dispatching him. What he's trying to, he's struggling to pull clear here. TJ in the pit lane. JB has to back off to get to the pits himself. But Curtis now right on Huff's tail and going to the inside at turn 1. There he goes. And Curtis now moves into net first place. Where is AT in relation to Curtis? That's going to be the gap to keep an eye out for now. Because if AT can keep himself within a 3-second range, which he's not in right now, he's about 4.5 seconds behind. Needs to gain a 1.5 seconds here to try and win this race. But he's still in for a fantastic finish if he can keep himself where he is. And if he gets one, then penalties play away from the mix completely. As long as Curtis has got 6 seconds here. And that's going to make things difficult. Apologies here. Maybe one of the penalties sort of flashed up quite briefly with a different one. But Curtis's chances of taking a blow with 10 laps to go. Cook leads 10th by about 7 tenths. But 10th getting rapidly as they come towards, I'm guessing, the last stops. No, Cook stays out, 10th stays out. Both cars keeping on circuit. If Curtis, Huff, Grumio and Imrie can catch them, that'll make life all the more difficult for this train as Huff tries again now down the inside. Looking for the race lead. Contact and a slide there. And Huff's got to be careful because he's got Grumio on his tail. And all of a sudden, Grumio with an outside chance to win this thing. It may come down to who gets penalties where. If Huff gets a second, that opens things up for Grumio to win it. But if Grumio gets a second too, There goes Imre to the inside. Obviously, likely he can't win the race, but he's still going to try and go for as high a finish as he can. Dan sits in behind, 2 seconds back. AT on his tail. And yeah, AT still not close enough to take advantage of Huff or Grumio, I don't think. It's going to be close between those guys. Whether AT can still win this thing from where he is now. I'm not sure I've ever seen a driver win a race from after penalties from as low as P6, which is where he'll be once 10th and Cook make their stops, if they make their stops. Huff makes the pass on Curtis again. I think it would help Red Bull to have Curtis in there as a roadblock of sorts to Grumio, but I'm sure that Curtis is in no mood to be that. As Dan gets a second penalty, I think his chances that the results are there gone. 10th Cannon still chasing Cook here. Can she force last week's winner into some kind of error? Because if these guys stay, I mean, if Cook can keep on these tyres, there's 9 laps to go, and I think we're sort of getting towards the point where if you're not boxing for mediums or softs, then what's the point? Yellow flag is out. It's a slow Williams. That's JB slow, but got himself going again. I'm wondering here, as Imre gets a 4th penalty of the evening, is it possible for Cook to stay on these tyres and try and win the race that way? I mean, Huff, Curtis, Grumio, Imre are all closing the gap as Imre tries the inside through turn 10 on Grumio again. Champion keeps him front. And his focus remains dead set on getting to Curtis, which he's doing. He was doing at a rate of knots. Imre closing the gap too. It may come down to who gets closest to make the move first, but Huff trying to pull away here. And at this rate, will need to still catch. I mean, because HB Cook's likely monitoring this situation, thinking, as it stands right now, he's got no penalties. So even if one of these guys passes him, he'd still have to lose 3 seconds to them in order to lose the race. So, I mean, I don't want to throw anything out there just yet, but we could be opening ourselves up to a HP Cook victory for the 2nd week in a row. Dare he seek win number 3 of his RDL career? And again, a race thrown into chaos through penalties this time, as opposed to singular incidents. I mean, all of our 16 runners are still going here. And no one's looked at any sort of risk of retirement in this race, but Huff 1.9 behind now. So he'd need to take the lead from HP Cook and establish a 3-second gap within the next 7 laps. Which means he needs to gain, if I had to guess here, around 7 or 8 tenths a lap minimum, as well as executing the pass. But there goes 10th Cannon making the move. 1.5 is the gap now, so things opening up a bit more for Huff as Imre a 5th penalty, and the track limits have not been kind to him tonight, not at all. He joins PJ in that club. AT in particular, he's staring down the barrel of a good finish here, I should think, if he can keep himself with his little train, try and close up with Dan. HB Cook now has got Huff closing the gap, 1.2 seconds. But again, Huff needs to then build 3 seconds. And as long as Cook doesn't get a penalty, he could still be in with outside chance for podium finish, I should think here. The win might perhaps be off. As Grumio makes the pass on Curtis at last. And the champion will likely start trying to reel in Huff and Cook. And ever the inevitable closer. That is your 11-time world champion Grumio. Seeking victory, but a slide there. Out of turn 10. And that could open the door for Curtis to try and come back at him. As Imre has a bit of tap to the inside wall there through turn 12. Grumio out of battery. Curtis not using his though. Waiting for the main straight, I should think. But Grumio using what little overtake he has to try and close in. There's just 6 laps to go in Canada right now. 10th Cannon is showing the way. About to get blue flags here for Courtney Goblin to move out of the way in that Cadillac. And things getting ever closer here as Huff right on Cook's tail. And this is the race for the leader, mind you. But Huff needs to take it and then build that advantage in. And if he can get the lead now, He'll have 5 laps to try and open it up. And we saw how he opened the gap over Curtis earlier on prior to those last pit stops. It may come down to how long he can keep Huff at bay. But dispatching 10th would also help, as the McLaren driver still shows the way. She still leads. There goes Huff to the right. And now pulling alongside HB Cook for the race lead. Sister RB versus Red Bull. And the Red Bull wins out. The works car moves up into P2. And Grumio on the tail here. But now, Huff's got to establish an advantage. And there goes Grumio at the inside. Close to contact, a slide there from Grumio. He's right on the tail of Huff here. So if these two can develop that advantage, they'll be in place to try and fight for the win. There goes Huff to the inside. Looking for past 10th. And gets around 10th. And Grumio trying the outside immediately here. Going around the high line on the 10th cannon. And the champion finds the position as Imri tries to sneak in too. Managed to dispatch Cook. Right, to see the gap now from the leader to P1. Huff's now in first place. He's got 1.2 seconds of that gap. And Grumio's second penalty. And that's going to lighten the load massively for Huff here. Who's now only got to think about Cook, who's now down in P5 in the order. 10th falling through the field too. These guys on quite worn tyres. 16 laps to be exact. And HB Cook 1.9 behind now. But if he can keep himself with his train and try and hope that Huff doesn't build a lead any more than this. Or if he gets a second penalty. But if he does, that opens the door for 10th to try and win the race. We are 4 laps away. And despite there being penalties in play, we're still none the wiser as to who will be classed as the winner here in Canada. And that's before the stewards have their say. Imri, 18 seconds. 2 drivers together with 6 penalties. With over half a minute of penalties between them, as Ben in the commentary box would put it over the last sort of season and a bit. And a track that is often littered with limit penalties has been kind to only 2 of them, Cook and AT. It's 2.6 now between Huff and Cook. And unless the Red Bull driver gets a second penalty of his own, which again could open the door for 10th to try and win, then Huff will be looking at a first RDL victory. And that's an enticing thought for anyone who's had it. Courtney Goblin backing off. May have to sit stationary here to allow everyone through. Yellow flags are out. And nice and clean from Courtney to let everyone go. And that's the top 7 all together here. The top 8, sorry, it's AT has been passed by Dan. 3 laps remaining. And Grumio would need to take the lead and build 3 seconds, which I can't see him doing from here. And 10th Cannon looking at her first podium finish of the season, if she can hang on to where she is now on 18 lap hold hard tyres. And Cook 3.5 the gap. So I think just banking on a second Huff penalty and a second 10th Cannon penalty for the hope for a second victory. But if Huff gets one, then Cook needs to move up and look to try and challenge 10th as soon as he can. Curtis is putting 10th under pressure. So if he forces her into an error of some kind, big send up the inside for the Haas driver. And 10th switches back. That might cost a bit more time. She's within 3 seconds of the leader right now. Because has a penalty of her own. And that gap is about to close. What a mad race this has been. Huff now 4 seconds back. So needs Huff to get a second penalty. So Cook needs Huff to get another one. I'm not sure if he's close, but speaking of close, he's 2 laps from glory now. And this is a driver who's had 3 second place finishes this season alone. Quite akin to the 3 Curtis has had in his time in the RDL. Huff, in what is just his 7th full-time start, is looking to emulate Lewis Hamilton back in 2007 and take his first victory in his first full-time season in Canada. He's just a lap and a half from doing it here. Grumio and Imrie giving chase. Imrie with 18 seconds is going to really tumble down the field here, I should think. Likely down to around sort of, if I had to guess, to P8. I think he's last this train. If not, maybe P7, if he's lucky. Though lucky's down in P14 himself. As Dan finds the pit lane here for one last time. Daniel Aaron, the other one, goes in and takes over P6 from HB Cook. Cook's chance of wins there gone, but still could be on for a good finish of the podium perhaps as Huff starts the 35th and final lap. If Huff gets a penalty on this last lap and 10th can stay where she is, the onus might fall to her to try and win the race. Or it could still fall to Cook. It depends on Huff keeps things tidy on these final two sectors. But still looking for that first win. And Grumio again knows what it's like to lose a race to track limits here in the last corner. Huff needs just to be careful. The two behind him are of no threat to him trying to win the race. And I think at this point he's dispatched any hope of losing out with another penalty because he's 7 seconds in front of his closest challengers as HB Cook now dispatching 10th. It could be too little too late. Those two go side by side here on the run towards the checkered flag. Huff has been the man out front tonight. He took 3 straight second place finishes. China, Japan, Bahrain, and just 3 weeks later will get himself back on top with his first career RDL victory. Huff and Dobak wins the Canadian Grand Prix. Grumio second place. Curtis jumps to third. Second podium finish for the Haas driver this season. AT jumps up and takes all of them. Had to wait to call it there. AT in third place. Double podium for the Silver Arrows. 4th place for HB Cook. The chance for the win was there. Curtis P5 in the end. Dan P6. 10th Cannon P7. TJ P8. Imrie P9. JB completes your points. Ericsson, PJ, Alvar, Lucky, Cottony, Dan, the rest of your order. But at long last, I imagine it's felt like some waiting for Huff. But he is a winner in the Racers Driving League. And a full season of competition since his debut at the Monaco Grand Prix last season. He's come into his own and is a winner in this league. It's a remarkable drive and so many penalties given out. Chaos all round tonight. And Grumio and AT, the Silver Arrows, trounced by the Bulls tonight, or the Lone Bull rather, in terms of full-time runners. And that will give Red Bull confidence again going forward. As the celebrations begin here in Montreal. What a race that was. One of the more exciting ones, and we were kept guessing right the way until the checker flag. Fantastic race. Chaotic. And a first-time winner. For the first time it feels in quite a while in the Racers Driving League. Huff wins it then from Grumio in second place. AT completes the podium in third by 2/10 in the end. It's HB Cook, who is so close to a second straight podium in the season. Curtis P5, and it's Dan 10th to 2 McLarens. TJ in 8th place. 9th place goes to Imrie after a decent race, but poor showing the track limit-wise. And JB completes your top 10, gets a point on the board for Williams. So many penalties tonight, it's still mad to count them all. PJ Keller got the most in the end. Ericsson, PJ, Alvar, Lucky, Cottony, and Dan PITR rounds them out. That is your action completed for tonight. And post-race interviews will start. Well, hopefully we'll get to have a chat with the newest race winner in the league. And just sort of get his words on just how mad that race was. And I hope you all enjoyed that as much as I did. Thank you for sticking with us. And a race that perhaps almost didn't go ahead tonight. We'll have to see in terms of penalties who comes out where. Of course, this is all provisional for the time being. The win is not official until the stewards complete their report later in the week. But for now, though, Huff is a race winner. But I can't see anything in particular denying him that fact. The gamble of the one stop from HB Cook and 10th Cannon so very nearly paid off. We'll have to see in terms of if we get anyone in. Let's have a chat with us here. And we have our first arrival here. 10th. Sorry, I'm saying 10th. Huff is here in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Huff is our newest RDL winner, at least provisionally. Huff, congratulations. I mean, after 3 straight second place finishes, that must feel pretty good.
I've only gone and done it. Yeah, that about time. I thought if any track I was going to get a win, it would have been Canada, because I've always seemed to do well at Canada. I thought as soon as I got that penalty, I thought someone's going to probably stay out and try and do the one stop, but thankfully everyone around me got pinned, so yeah, it worked out in the end.
Worked out, I think is definitely one way of putting it. But yeah, I mean, you've been in now for a full season, more or less, in terms of sort of around as a reserve or full time. You've done most circuits, and I'd say this result probably tops the lot. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, 100%, easily. Just the consistency was on point today. There's no big mistakes, little wee things, but you know, that's just this track is very slidey. So it's just a matter of just keeping the car together. And you know, I'm good at losing the car, so thankfully that never happened today.
Thankfully, indeed, because I would have denied us a brilliant moment as you crossed the line there at the very end. Of course, the penalties came into play big time in tonight's Grand Prix. You had a 3-second one yourself.
Yep.
Were you close to 6 seconds at all, or?
I'm not sure. I didn't even look at the times, so I'm not sure. Not sure what the script is with the pens.
But, I mean, we still remain remarkably close to the very end. Of course, HP Cook was there. We'll talk to him in a moment in terms of sort of how close he was, perhaps nabbing the win with the one stop. But I mean, I'll ask sort of going forward, is this the sort of Huff we can start to expect a bit more often? Try and win races?
I'd probably say, I'd have to say yes, but we'll see, because you know, it could always be a fluke. But I'm looking more into being consistent. I'm just trying to go into the races a little bit like less nerve-wracking and just have fun with it.
And of course, Monaco next week in particular, a track that you qualified quite well on reserve debut last season. Is that a track you feel confident going to with a full season experience in this league under your belt?
Yeah, I feel like Monaco also I do quite well at, so I'll be looking forward to seeing how it goes next week.
So plenty to keep an eye out for them. For Huff, who wins for the first time in the RDL, we'll remain optimists here and hope this isn't the last we see of him on top step. We'll come now to HP Cook, who of course came so close, perhaps to an unlikely second victory in a row. Cook, mate, the one stop. Fair play for pulling it off, but I think had the track limit penalties not intervened, do you think you'd won that race?
Well, said it get a track limit pen. I'll take it at the end of the day, but no, my aim was never on the win or the podium. It was just to maybe get P4 or P5 where I finished, but to come so close to the podium, I think it was like the 10th and a half off AT was just disappointing, but well, it's good points, so I'll take it any day of the week.
I mean, yeah, good points that which will jump you up as it stands right now to P4 in the Drivers' Championship, jumping Harrison. That would be a good few points for V-Carb, so that should put you in front of Alpine as well, from what I'm seeing here. So, I mean, despite being the lone V-Carb in the race here, good day all around for the team?
Yeah, obviously both me and Ben aren't here next week, so it was required that I kind of got the result today, so managed to get that P4, and obviously we got the win in last week, so hopefully when Ben returns, he can start also getting points, which I believe he can. So, yeah, good points. We'll just keep working when we come back. I don't know what track it is after Monaco. I think it might be Spain.
Correct,
so, yes. So when we both return for Spain, let's try and get double points and then keep this form going.
One last thing, I did want to ask you about the tyre weather. Just on the off chance, how close were you to a puncture, if at all, in the last 2 laps of that race?
I was nowhere near.
Nowhere near? Okay.
I think around lap 25, I was on like 20, just reaching 25%.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I extended. You know, Tev did the same with me, so I knew that me and Tim probably working together for most of the race. So I had around 40 to 50% tyre wear at the end, but just didn't have enough battery against like AT or Huff or anybody really. So I just had to try and work what I had, and it's a P4, so you can't really fault it. So we'll just take it and move on.
So another point scoring finish then to HP Cook. Not quite the win, but still a fantastic result all the same, both for him and the team. And we'll come now to 10th Cannon for McLaren, who came home in the end, marked down as P7. But 10th, honestly, Given that you only had, did you have a penalty to win that race, or did you have 3 seconds at the end?
I had 3 seconds, but I believe I followed the rules of slowing down. I think it's about half a second you need to slow down if you get a warning. I did do that, so I was in theory going to get it removed, but I just don't think I'm going to now.
I mean, for a split second, going on to the last lap, I was thinking if Huff got another penalty, then you'd have been in sort of prime position to maybe even win the race. So just shows how close things were tonight overall. The one stop, I mean, was there any sort of discomfort for you at all, or was it the same sort of thing as Cook?
Well, it wasn't easy. I mean, it's a one stop on a track that's not very easy on tires, especially when everyone's doing two stop. It was kind of an accident. I was gonna do the two stop, but as I was pitting, I outbraked myself, and I just very gently tapped Cook. Again, apologies to Cook for that. I did not realize he was on the one stop, and I kind of thought everyone was going to pit, so I was like, I'm going to go in the pits, I guess. So I kind of went on the involuntary one stop by then, but yeah, it was fine. Like Cook said, it was pretty easy. It's not a very tough track on the hard tires.
So I'll ask. I can't speak. I'll ask you this. Looking at sort of the season as a whole so far, obviously it was a disappointing start. No points in the first 3 rounds, but since then it's been fourth, 7th. That's not at all a bad return, is it?
Oh God, no. I'm very happy with it. I think it's 2 weeks in a row that I've been in. I've had an outside shot to win the race potentially. I mean, I know it probably didn't seem like it, like in either weeks, but to me, I was in at least a mathematical shot of winning. So I'm happy with it. I'm wondering if maybe I will ever get that first win. I'm not too positive I will, but it is what it is. I'm happy with what I'm doing right now. I'm hoping to get a few more podiums this season, maybe if the things go the way they are right now.
Is there a track you put forward perhaps to get that first podium, or we're not too sure right now?
I don't know. Just wherever I turn up and I'm quick.
Fair enough.
Yeah, just wherever I'm quick, I guess. This is off topic, but I will say one thing. I would like to apologize to AT and Cook for how aggressively I defended on the last lap. That was that was me trying to get down some points, and I tried to drive as slowly as I could. Well, not as slowly as I could, but like I tried to hold them up as much as I could without being dangerous, and I'm pretty sure I did okay.
I mean, speaking of
yeah, I'm sure probably hate me right now.
I won't worry about it too much. I mean, you have brought up an interesting point though in terms of constructors. I mean, as it stands right now, Grumio and AT second and third, so they've sort of closed a big chunk down in the constructors championship. Is that a gap you and Dan feel like you can sort of re-extend going forward, or is that gonna be a tough task?
I mean, you'd have to ask Dan, but I think we can. I've heard. I don't know how many races Grumio is going to do this year. Or this season rather. He's done. He's house missed a couple, so potentially if he misses even more, I think we could be onto something. I'm pretty confident we can hang around the pace of AT. I know Dan is pretty good. Excuse me, sorry, to win week in, week out pretty well. Not win week in, week out, but like be up there at least. And I think I'm starting to get my qualifying sorted a bit now to where I'm qualifying like roughly in the low top 10 every race, which I think, given my historically bad qualifying performance and how bad it has been this season, I think I'm pretty happy with that. Although I am worried for next week.
Next week, where of course your teammate Dan is only the defending winner of what should hopefully be a very exciting Monaco Grand Prix, or at least exciting for F1 standards. But that will do it then in terms of our coverage of tonight's event. That'll do it. Thank you guys for turning up to the interviews. Obviously, congratulations again to Huff on, at least for now, the victory. I mean, I can't see anything to be taken away, but we'll see in terms of what the stewards have to say later on in the week. But that'll do it then. Thank you all so much for watching tonight's stream. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more future RDL content. Monaco Grand Prix taking place next Monday on the 3rd of August. Hope you all can make it. Have a fantastic week, and we shall see you all next time. Goodbye.